was insane. That was insane. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Dolphins and Titans hire new coaches. Jimmy Butler is out for the season, and Jeff Saturday joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with Indiana winning last night's college championship game over Miami, 27-21 in Miami's home stadium. The Hoosiers never trailed. It was 10-0 at the half and 24-14 after Fernando Mendoza made a great 12-yard run on a 4th and 4 in the fourth quarter. Miami played well, kept it a lot closer against Indiana than Alabama and Oregon did. But Indiana was better and closed out their season 16-0. Wilbon, your thoughts on how the Hoosiers did it and what it means?
Well, Tony, it was a fascinating performance of, we hear the phrase complimentary football all the time, and some nights it just ain't true. But it was last night. I mean, you get this performance from Mendoza, particularly that play. That play which is going to become iconic in very little time. But you also get a blocked punt. You get an interception in the game. All of it. They played so well, all of it. And you look at the players on Indiana's team, there's some talented players. They're a handful of 4 and 5 stars as opposed to Miami, which has like more than 50 of them. But then you look at Curtis Signetti and his staff and what they did to develop those players. And I'm looking at Tom Brady on the sideline, wondering how much of himself he might see in Mr. Mendoza and choosing him first for the Raiders if the Raiders indeed do that. So it was packed with a lot of stuff last night, that game. And Miami did play well. Miami had a chance. Maybe if that pass is about, 2 yards longer to go ahead to win the game. They have a chance to do it. But it's one of the great, great stories of all time, the Hoosiers, and wow, they played to it again.
I'm going to sing a love song to Mendoza here because he showed that every honor he's gotten, he deserves. I mean, he was really that good last night. Well, a couple of weeks ago, we saw the Oregon quarterback, and he had a terrible night, and he was rated the second best quarterback in the college draft. And he said after that, I'm going back to school, presumably to raise his draft stock. The other day, C.J. Stroud, 4 interceptions in the first half. The spotlight can be withering, but it was so complimentary with Mendoza. This is why the guy won the Heisman. He got hit early, Mike. They cut his lip open.
Yeah.
He was bleeding. You could see it. And he held up, and he stood up, and on that most important call of his life, that 4th and 4, he went in there like a pinball, and he made it all the way to the end zone. And, Mike, he justified everything that has been said about him to this point. You mentioned Signetti. They hired Signetti 2 years ago from James Madison. Nobody had ever heard of him, and Indiana wasn't any good. Signetti right now looks like the smartest guy to ever coach football. You Google him. He's got a national championship. Mike, it's one of the greatest seasons of all time because Indiana had never won. The last time they were in a bowl game was something called the Copper Bowl in 1991. They had not won. Nobody expected this.
No.
And from the time they won the Big Ten championship on, the teams that they beat were great teams, and they beat them. They were plus 493 on the season. It's astonishing.
The Big Ten, just to end with a note on that, I don't want to let the SEC bow down, tip your cap to the Big Ten, because the Big Ten's the best conference right now. I know many, many, many years it is the SEC, but it ain't now. Not with 3 straight, Ohio State, Michigan, and now Indiana. And I don't know who's on the clock, but it's the Big Ten now. Let's move to the NFL's latest coaching hires. The Dolphins hired Packers defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley as their next head coach, and the Titans are going with Niners defensive coordinator Robert Saleh. Drew Petzing will join the Lions as their new OC, and the Chiefs plan to bring back Eric Bieniemy as theirs. Tone, which move stands out to you the most?
None of them. I mean, it's not very glamorous. I guess you could say that Saleh is kind of sort of glamorous, but he was a disaster with the Jets, Mike. He was 20 and 36.
Everybody's a disaster with the Jets.
He goes to Tennessee. Here's what you need to know about Tennessee. They fired Mike Vrabel a couple of years ago. Since then, they're 6 and 28. Vrabel is 16 and 3 and 1 win away from the Super Bowl. Hafley is interesting to me. I'd never heard of him except for this one little fact. A few years back, he was the head coach at Boston College. So he's in a Power 4 conference job, and he had won a bowl game. He quit. He quit to become the defensive coordinator at Green Bay, and people like me said, what are you doing? It felt like a backward step. Well, maybe it wasn't, because now he's got one of the 32 jobs in the country that go to NFL head coaches, and BC went 2-10 this year. I will say this, there's a lot of teams that need coaches. The three that interest me, these are the ones I'm waiting for. Buffalo with Josh Allen, Baltimore with a two-time MVP in Lamar, and Pittsburgh because it's an iconic franchise. The other things, I don't care. I want to know who's getting those jobs.
I care about the Kansas City Chiefs. And therefore, it's interesting. For one, I'm losing my running backs coach from Chicago and Eric Bieniemy, who did a hell of a job with that running game this year. And he's going back to Kansas City where he already was. And basically, they are saying something that I told you for 4 years. Don't tell me that Matt Nagy's offense is any good, because it's not. Because the offense got worse. Because they were up in the top 01, and they went to like 15 and then dropped. And Matt Nagy's out there, and who knows whether he's going to have a seat when the music stops. But Eric Bieniemy, it's not like he's going to call the plays. Andy Reid presumably will do that.
He calls
But the Kansas City Chiefs still matter. And even if the position of OC isn't glamorous, the quarterback certainly is. And he, in my opinion, will be helped by getting Bieniemy back and getting Nagy out of there.
Yeah, well, that's perfectly fair. The only other job that you care about a little bit, not because of the franchise, but the Raiders have the #1 overall pick, so you want to see who gets that. Let's move to the NBA and the stunning news that Jimmy Butler tore his ACL last night and will be out for the rest of the season. Butler had been averaging 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists in 31 minutes a night. And the Warriors have been hot lately. They won last night. They're 12-4 in their last 16 games. Wilbon, I know you love the Warriors, and I know you love Jimmy Butler.
Yep.
Where does this leave the team, Butler, and the exiled Jonathan Kuminga?
Tony, none of this is good. Jimmy Butler is so important to what the Warriors knew they could do last year when they acquired him. And then giving a training camp and some time, some patience. And here we are just past the halfway point of the season, and the Warriors and Butler were playing so well and well together. And now this. And the Warriors can't win without Jimmy Butler. The West is too hard. The West has got teams. I mean, first of all, they're not even in the top 6 now. And so I don't know what this means with Kuminga. Do you just plug Kuminga back in? Kuminga should have been in anyway, in my opinion. You know I love Steve Kerr, but I don't love the handling of Jonathan Kuminga. So do they just play Jonathan Kuminga, or they still look to trade him and get someone they think is a better fit? These are all very difficult questions and issues for the Warriors.
Yeah, so Kuminga, a couple of years ago, averaged 16 points a game. He's only 23 years old.
Yeah.
Butler is 36. Steph Curry is 37. Draymond is 35. They picked up Al Horford. He's 39. They are so old, they could have watched the first show that we ever did on PTI. It's possible. They are that old. But to Kuminga for a second, he has played 9 minutes since December 6th.
Yes.
I think I have that correct.
Yeah.
That's only 9 more minutes than I have played since December 6th. I mean, I don't know what you do with this guy. The guy wants to play. If he doesn't play at the Warriors, he wants to be traded. And I know that you're conflicted because you love Steve Kerr that much. I always think that the Warriors are a threat because they have Steph Curry and Steve Kerr. But you know what, Mike? They haven't been in the playoffs 3 of the last 6 years. So I may be living in the past on that. And I have no idea about Kuminga, but it does seem to me he's got to play immediately, right?
Tony, you would think, look, he wears the championship ring. The kid was on that team in 22. So I don't know exactly what happens, but it feels like the Warriors, the sands of time. Just
feels that way. Feels that way.
I hate that.
Let's take a break. Coming up, how can the Patriots offensive line rise to the challenge of the Broncos defense? We're going to ask Jeff Saturday.
We'll also ask him how the Broncos offensive line will have to adjust to new quarterback Jarrett Stidham.
All the people we know on the Warriors are basically our age. Let's dig into the conference championship game trenches with our great friend, ESPN NFL analyst Jeff Saturday. Jeff, let's start with this. The Patriots' pass protection has struggled, and now they come up against the Denver Broncos, who actually lead the league in sacks. From the perspective of an offensive lineman, how can the Patriots improve?
Well, first of all, the last two teams, or the two teams that are playing last week and this week, are nightmares anyway. So, you got the best edge guys. They're pushing pressure. You have a young guy in Campbell going to try to take the edge. But the reality is they're going to get some kind of pressure. It's making sure from an offensive line perspective, you keep your body between he and the QB. Make him reach over you, make him do those kind of things. And then it's on Drake May to protect the football when he's in the pocket. Keep two hands on it, be strong. Don't let those strip sacks. What you don't want to do is get on an edge and get driven all the way back and give up these free shots. Like that's the worst thing. But if you're talking about strictly from an offensive line perspective, be aggressive in your set, make the guy run the long way around, whether you're guards or tackles, make him go the edge, and May's going to have to be strong in the pocket, stepping up, not just trying to run outside and push the ball down the field. But the reality is they're facing the two best groups in the AFC the last 2 weeks. Some guy, they're on scholarship too, you know what I mean, Tony? So they're going to get home at some point.
Jeff, meanwhile, the Broncos are going to turn to Jarrett Stidham at quarterback. So what is involved? Give us the most complex things involved when an offensive line has to adjust, and I'm sure there are many adjustments, to a brand new quarterback, particularly in a game of this magnitude.
Yeah, I would say this. When you're at the line of scrimmage and you're going to have to make some kind of adjustment, whether it's an adjustment in pass protection, an adjustment in an audible, whether it's going from a run to a pass or pass to a run, whatever it is, and the defense shifts or moves in the middle of the cadence. Because we all, human nature, the speed of the cadence changes at times. You get very accustomed as an offensive line to listening to Bo Nix for week after week after week. And all of a sudden, you got a new voice. You have a new way that he wants to kind of go about it. His brain processes a little bit different. And Sean Payton's going to do a great job of trying not to allow that to happen too much. But it's the most complicated part because it's the timing of everything. We always talk about the timing of a passing game. Well, there's timing of the run game and there's timing of protection and checks and audibles. All of those things are going to have to be worked through during this week. It is very difficult. The great part for them, they're playing at home. If this was on the road, it would be significantly worse, but at least they'll have the cadence to kind of to lean back on. But there ain't nothing easy about it. And let me tell you, the Patriots do a fantastic job of kind of mucking it up in the back where you don't know exactly what they're doing. Guys kind of jicky-jack around. They're not kind of in the place they may end up. There's a lot of communication that's going to have to occur for that Broncos offensive line, who's done a good job, but they're going to have to be even better with Stidham at the helm.
Let's go back for a minute to something that pains me. Rams-Bears, and Rams head coach Sean McVay says afterward that he has to be a better play caller, Jeff, after abandoning the run for a lot of the game against the Bears. And I want to ask something in general, really. Why is it that so many great play callers, and Sean McVay is clearly one of them, why do they abandon the run? Like when things start to, anything happens, abandon the run. We've seen that. What happens?
Explosive plays. I tell people this all the time. If you looked at last year with the Philadelphia Eagles, what made their offense so good was Saquon Barkley explosive runs, right? It's a low risk, high reward. Well, you get in these games, and all of a sudden, you want to make sure you're getting first downs, you're moving the ball, you're flipping the field per se, like getting on their side of the 50. Or even if you're not scoring points, you're making them go the long way. And coaches, they just forget. And I've been involved in games where you go in with the idea, the concept, hey, we're going to run the ball, we can physically dominate this team, and they start off doing that. And you kind of fade away, and then you kind of catch back up at the end of the game. But he's exactly right. You got to stick to who you are. Physicality matters. Opening up for play action and plays down the field. All those explosive plays come from the defense getting closer to the line of scrimmage. If you don't stay physical with them, they'll stay back and make your passing game much more difficult. But again, it's much easier said than done. And when you're a design maniac like Sean McVay, you can think of all these great concepts. Yeah. It's hard. And you got a Hall of Fame quarterback. So you're like, why not? Like, why not put the best at the best? But at times, physicality is the most important, and he understands that. He needs to make sure he gets with that with the Seahawks this week.
Just to follow for 1 second quickly. As a veteran offensive lineman, can you ever go and stand next to the play caller, particularly if it's the head coach, he's on the sideline, and say, yo, coach, hand it to Saquon?
Absolutely. They all are. Hey, listen, go YouTube me and Manning on the sideline. That's exactly what that is. Don't tell me about any checks in the red zone. Don't tell me about we're throwing some passes. We're going to run the ball down their throat. We better get to it. Every offensive lineman better feel comfortable enough to walk up to Sean, We can't just sit here and throw it all around now. We're not playing in the park. Let's go hit him in the mouth and take some physicality. But absolutely, O-line say that. But you better. That's what we do best.
I love that.
We will get you out of here on this, and it is also about running. The Seahawks have averaged 172 yards, a lot, rushing in their last 4 games, but they're going to be without Zach Charbonnet. How much does it matter to the blockers which running back is actually carrying the ball?
Yeah, it definitely matters, Tony, but I'll say this about Seattle. They have been committed to the run all season. Like, even when they weren't really efficient at it, they kept calling them up. You'd see 30 runs on the chart, and they're putting in the work. It has come to fruition. You've seen the run game kind of take off these last few weeks, starting back in like week 18, I think it was, against the 49ers. But they're getting physical, and you could tell their offensive line and their backs are finding rhythm. But backs do run differently. Like Charbonnet, interior, those short yardage goal lines, he's exceptional at it. And then you look at Walker, who's kind of an explosive play, right? Bounces outside and can hit the home runs. But the bottom line with Charbonnet being out is you understand exactly what Walker wants to see as an offensive lineman. He wants to see a clean edge. He wants to be able to push the ball north and south and then bounce and get outside. So as an offensive lineman, going in, he may like it a little different, but you ain't got Charbonnet, so we're going to stick with the Walker and have the one kind of the one